as long as you think positive, you can do it.
1987, Farmer Isman, two-wheel drive, world champion from the United States, Joey Johnson. What car were you using to win the final today? The Kyosho Ultimate.
Our world champion.
Our world championship, Matt Francis. Greg Hodap in the middle.
We have Ryan Dunbar.
That, huh?
Wow. Hey guys.
Whoa. What's up, everybody? So tonight we're live with Jam Jay Halsey and Mike the Painter, one of the original founders of Skull Racing. So,
the founder,
he says.
Brought an old friend.
Mike.
Remember him, Jay?
Is that a self carving of your?
This is the same one we used to drag around.
Yeah.
Walsky built that.
Yep.
Really? So that's the very first one?
There's only one.
The only one.
But this is the one that we used to drag around and popped up in videos here and there. We nicknamed him Old Boney years ago. And I don't know, I can't remember what happened, but it was in Florida. Jay, do you remember? I think it was like Dean Carnes or one of those John something from Georgia. So one of those guys kicked it or something and knocked his teeth out.
Oh no!
He's probably still laying at the track back there in
Lutz Park.
Same one we used for the skull cam. Yeah. Anyways.
All right. So, this is going to be our last one to kick off the vintage class, J-Con says vintage class of champions and old school RC reunion. Couldn't have a better one than this. There's going to be a lot of funny stories tonight for sure. And, I'm excited, Mike, to have you coming, man. You said if we got Jay, you would come, and here you are.
Well, that was it. I said that and I stick to my word. It's going to be hard. We started a new business here in Minnesota 2 years ago. When you first asked me, Dirk, we were a year into it. I had no idea, how things were going to go. And this thing relies, the Timberwolf Inn, where I'm at right now, relies heavily on tourism. And, the summer is our biggest season, but snowmobiling is a big deal here. And since I do run the local snowmobile club, help run, there's several guys involved in it. Our season is still open.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't had the correct weather. We had about a 6-week season. We are near critical fire danger as of yesterday.
Oh,
and
no.
tonight we got a 7-inch snowstorm.
Wow.
So which we didn't get all year. We had a lot of 2 and 3 inches, and it provided us a little bit of a snowmobile season, but I really had no idea. So it came at a crazy time for me, but you guys have done a great job. I can't believe how many people, of these legends, all the great people in RC that you've gotten together, and 10 years of old school RC, right?
A little over 10, yes, sir.
A little over 10. I mean, wow.
A
fan of your page, since, I don't know, probably within a year or something, or when you started, and this has really been cool. And it's kept my interest alive.
I know that you and I have become really close over the years, Mike, and I appreciate it. Even when I did make the entire racetrack sick that time, I think.
Yeah, we had typhoid, I think it was, right?
So what?
Yeah.
What a fun race.
Gave us all typhoid at Lake of the Hills.
I don't know if that was the original COVID or what, but it was rough.
Whatever it was terrible.
It was very, very bad. You know, I tell people,
We still blame you for that.
Yeah. I tell people a lot because, you know, they, you know, people want to complain about the different types of dirt and, you know, the different types of tracks that we have available. And, you know, that's back when I was traveling, you know, we were doing like vintage racing, you know, every other week. And, you know, I was traveling from all these old tracks to old tracks. And, you know, it's, yeah.
So are you saying that's how you got sick from?
You know, I don't know, man. You know, I was going from A scale big races like PMB to AMS to, you know, all these indoor with all these fuels. And then I'd go to all these really, really old tracks. And, you know, I don't know. It's probably just wore out tiredness, but hey, we all lived through it, right?
Awesome. That's cool that you've been able to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we're trying to do it again. You know, I don't know if y'all saw the pictures of the track yet, Jay. I probably need to send you some, but oh my God.
Hey, did you see the track?
I've seen the track, some pictures, but not the new layout. Or anything.
Oh, you have not seen the new layout yet. So let's pull some of that up real quick.
Cool.
If y'all want, we can, and just take a peek, and then we'll talk stories. See here, present. This is going to mess our screen up, but that's okay. We can fix it.
Yeah, I would certainly say that Ed Henley, is that his name?
Eddie Henley, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the guy, but I feel like I do now after watching a couple of his videos.
Right. Yeah. So here is the.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you that it's probably the coolest layout I've seen. It was designed after the 97 Worlds, kind of as a tribute to Dunbar. And you know, we have a lot of people coming in from the 97. But man, let me see here if I can get some more.
Where's the driver's stand at in there?
So let me see. I got a picture.
That's from the announcer stand, that view.
Yeah. Here's the driver stand here.
Oh, okay.
Looking down on the track.
Are those the Legends of RC on the?
Yeah, those are the legends. That's one.
I wish I could see it. I can't.
That is one big ass banner right there.
That's cool how you did Dunbar there in the center. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So one awesome banner.
Well, that explains
the man right there. Sexy young Jay. But they have Eddie has put in the work, man. I'm like,
yeah, this guy.
You know, it's probably one of the most incredible layouts I've seen. The changes in let's see here. We did a big live video last night, Jay. I can try to send it to you. But the magnitude that he put in to this track is just unbelievable. So,
God, I hope I can see that far, Jay.
Yeah, me too.
I did. I can be honest with y'all. I struggled when I was there last because it's so freaking big, right?
Maybe I could stand in a corner, Jay, and say, "Turn right, turn right."
Dirk, when you're building my car, can you put those little feeler things on the sides?
Yeah, you want me to put some curb finders on there?
So that must be the driver's stand to the right.
This picture. This picture here is from the driver's stand.
Oh, okay.
This is the driver's stand looking straight on.
Okay, so the driver's stand is on the right and the left. Then
it's a panoramic picture.
It's a panoramic. It's just a big. So over to the right here is pit area. Over this area is here's the announcer's booth.
What direction is it running?
It'll run this way.
Clockwise?
Yeah, clockwise.
Yeah.
Man.
That's
man,
cool.
I'm ready. I'm ready, baby. I'm ready.
That building just looks huge.
Dude, it's immaculate. So the track itself is like 11,000 square feet.
Jesus.
So it's big.
And then what do they prep it with? They prep it with like glue or something?
He's got some kind of special sauce. He won't tell us what's in it. So
I know at least, the Chicago clay tracks use WD-40. I mean, gallons of it. And you treated it with the track with that, but hell, who knows? That was years ago. I haven't raced there in 8 years or something like that.
It definitely gets a black groove that forms.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just gorgeous. Yeah, he did an exceptional job.
They really did a nice job, taking vintage into consideration on this thing, because I had been looking at, their Facebook and their website and seeing the tracks, and you just were like, holy shit, that's gnarly. And you could just imagine your vintage RC10 or whatever pan car you're driving, slapping the, over a triple and probably snapping something in half but they really, I love this kind of track. Just, fast, big sweeping corners, some jumps that you can just motor right over. I don't know. To me, that leads to a lot of really nice racing. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. Having you two together, man, on video after all these years is pretty freaking cool. When's the last time you guys kind of have hung out?
Well, Mike, it was funny. Mike, I don't know. It's probably been about 6 years ago, Mike.
It was 8 years ago because I just looked back on it.
Really?
It seems like it was yesterday, doesn't it?
Mike and we had touched base here and there, and then we still were talking here and there. And he said, "Hey, I'm coming out to California, and I think we're staying at my buddy's. I think he lives by you." Well, literally like a mile away.
It was on the same street, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, it was.
Same street, just a mile away.
Yeah. So we got to hang out then a little bit. So it was pretty cool.
This man is one of the busiest guys you'll ever meet, and one of the most focused people that you'll ever meet. And it's so hard you want to give him a call and see how everything's going, but he's fucking busy as hell.
Yeah.
Every time I try to call him, if it's during the middle of the day, hey, I'm on a movie set or a commercial set somewhere. Fuck, I'm putting an engagement board on a cabin somewhere. I could stop all day. Yeah. But it reminds me of when we really got to be buddies was those races down in Florida. And you could always pin Jay down because he was just sitting in his pit clipping X patterns for most of the day. And then Walsky would come over and Jay Halsey clipping some X patterns. Jay, how's it going? Be like, get the fuck out of here, Walsky.
Yeah.
Sitting in a folding chair with a pile of rubber like he was eating pistachios in whatever an airplane or whatever the movie was. There's a stack of X patterns. Here's the whole rest of the team. Oh, where'd you clip those tires? No, Jay did them for me, But you could always sit down and have a conversation with him. He got so good at it that you could talk about fishing or whatever and be sitting there clipping his tires. But that's when we were down in Florida a couple of years. And, when the thing was finally over or getting near the end and Jay knew he was, TQ or going to win the buggy or the truck race, whatever he's going to win that weekend was secure. Then all of a sudden you'd see him let loose a little bit, And I'll tell you what, you'll never laugh harder than, sitting around with Jay Halsey and Tim Walsky. It was just Walsky. This is the only way that this could be better, you guys. If we were sitting right here now and we had Walsky.
Yep.
I mean, he was just the most amazing dude and my lifelong buddy. And it just every time I start thinking about this, it's like, God, I don't have Walsky.
Yeah.
So it's hard. He was one hell of a good dude, really was. And just so funny. His wit was full, and whether you're in the pit around the driver's stand.
I think we're losing
because
you.
he was so.
There you go.
There. Yeah, you're coming in and out, Mike. Kind of like the olden days.
There
The
you
computer
go.
system. Well, I'll tell you what. I am in. Screwing you up.
It's kind of what we dealt with you last time, Jay, for the first part.
Now we got you.
Mike, you back? I see your lips moving slowly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Here.
All right.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that, Mike, because I mean, back then, any of these guys, even nowadays, these guys going to the race. I mean, you're going there for one thing. You're going there to win a race. And honestly, I mean, I was very lucky. I got to travel all over the world, all over the country. But honestly, we didn't really get to do much. You know, we very rarely did we go do other things but race. So we'd fly in. Sometimes we'd fly into places and test months ahead of time, and then we might have an extra day. But during the race, you really don't have a lot of time. I mean, you get done qualifying, you're getting everything ready for the next day. The track's changing, you're adapting your tires and car and everything to the track, and then you're trying to get back and get some sleep. But I mean, with you and Walsky there, with Mike and Walsky there, it kind of livened it up because they were taking it serious, but also having fun.
We were on vacation, dude.
Yeah, they're on vacation. So it definitely,
like these guys are trying to work and we're fucking around.
Yeah, definitely livened it up. And for me, it definitely did because, I mean, like I said, when you're racing at a higher level, you're going there for one thing. You're going there to win a race. And you're just kind of focused on what you're doing, you know. So.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody, because there's been a lot of work put into this race, right? Just, constant, trying to build momentum. And, we were talking about it last night. We've turned down over 125 entries for this race.
Really?
Which would have put us over 400 or over 500 entries total. So one of the things we're trying to do, Jay, is kind of like what you're talking about. There's a reunion part to this race, right? Where we're trying to get everybody together, and we want to be able to have a nightlife and enjoy ourselves and be able to hang out and share stories and do all that. So that's one reason we decided to cap it. We ended up capping it. I think we're at 371 total entries for the race right now, which is huge. It'll be the largest vintage event ever held in the U.S. For sure. And probably the largest ever if we would have took all the entries. But it's not about that. It's not about trying to be the biggest or the best. It's about trying to reunite and have a little fun, and somebody told me the other night, you say you've done all this work. Now don't forget to go have fun and enjoy yourself at this event, So that's what I want it to be about is, having fun.
Yep. No, that's what I'm looking
to talk tonight a little bit about the changeover to Losi and then, kind of the shenanigans of Skull Racing and kind of how Skull Racing started. I know there's a lot of people, I know you and I are both back in AE now, Jay, after all these years. But it's the, I kind of love to hear, how all that kind of went down if you want to talk about it. And then, Mike being the wild man he was, and like you said, making things fun at the events, livening things up a little bit.
Well, for me, it was, we were racing locally, and you're in Chicago. You're racing with some guys in the club race, and when I first started, I knew nothing about what was going on in California, or what Jay was doing. But I do remember going into the hobby shop, 1985. This kid at the hobby shop goes, "Here's the new RC10."
Yep.
Jammin' Jay Halsey just won the IFMAR Worlds. And I go, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea. And it took us a couple of years to start going to some events, and the bigger events we went to was at Roy Weist's R&R hobby event every spring. And that's where I first met Mike and Steve.
Yep.
And, any kid that ever opened an RC car action knew who Jay Halsey was, because here he was standing there with that big breasted broad in the bikini, with the full-size RC10 next to him, like, I want to be Jay Halsey. Which would have been hard for me because I was already like 15 years older. But anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, Jay Halsey. So, we're fucking racing and Skull Racing starts. And when we first met Jay was at the 1989 Nationals and Pops Losi. And I really we didn't know anything about the Losi car yet.
That was my last race, the 1989 Nationals, just so you guys know, until I came back.
I painted that body.
You sure did.
Yep.
I still have it.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Well, Pops Losi took a liking to us, which was weird because he had nothing else to do except watch what everybody else was doing. And, Jay had, but, he was focused on his racing, and, the days were long. So me and Walski were finding anything to do to screw around, and video cameras were becoming the thing. And he had this video camera. So it was a camera with a wire that had to go to a giant battery on a backpack. I mean, this is before we all walked around with a little television set in our pocket, and, I guess it was kind of funny to see somebody run around with a video camera like that, but fuck, I borrowed the thing from my brother-in-law. So it was out in the dust and the rain and whatever the whole time we were out there. But man, we got some cool footage, Now all those videotapes are pretty much all left up, and I did save some stuff, but that was our first glimpse of, oh my God, this thing is huge. We had some fast guys in Skull Racing. Of course, my lifetime buddy, Matt Ledger. There was another young kid, Dennis Wazak, that lived in the same neighborhood as Matt. And it was so coincidental that I just started racing and went to this local track. And here's these two kids there that are giving me fits. It's like they're either beating me or trying to run me over, and it just kind of snowballed, into local club racing, and finding out that Matt and Dennis lived kind of by me. So I started, picking those kids up. They were 14 and 15 years old, taking to the track. They were fast. We were winning a lot of races. Don Jones and Jim Dieter, of course, are from the Chicagoland area, and they both won a national, Aurora National in 1987. And those guys Don Jones in particular, would show up at our track, and we were running right with them, on our track, and so that kind of whet our interest for going to more regional and national events, and that's kind of how we ended up at the 89 Nationals when I first really met Jay. What did you ran a Losi in 89, right, Jay, at the Freedom Hill?
Yeah, I think it was about then, 89, 90.
Yeah,
we started around Losi. Yeah.
And so, but the car had to be. Was it in production even at that time, or?
Oh yeah, it had been out for a while.
Right?
Yeah, it had been out for a while.
When did he bring it? He brought it to the 88. Was it the 88 Nationals or 88 State or whatever? I remember. Are we talking about the JRX2 or what are we talking about?
Yeah. JRX2.
Yeah.
Well, when we all traveled down, and it was a pretty big race that Roy Weist used to throw with his wife and kids and that at R&R Raceway in Quincy, Illinois. And that's when I first met Mike and Steve Dunn, and Kyle Reed started, hanging around with those guys. Well, Dieter was so tight with those guys. They had, I thought they were the first, they were the first Losis we ever saw. Yeah. And that was in March of 1989. And there was something about it where I was like, wow, look at that thing. It's just, man, it's just quick. It's quick. It's fast. But Roy had the shittiest track. You ever went to? I mean, it's so
well, the one you're talking about, we started qualifying outdoor and it rained and we moved it to indoor. We had to build a driver stand indoor. And then if it's the same race I'm thinking of, but at Roy's track, we qualified outdoor. It rained so bad, we moved it to indoor, and then we raced the mains back outdoor.
It's going to be Roy's way.
Yeah.
There's no questioning that.
No.
We pushed him to his limit. He would get so mad at me and Walski. Oh my God. But then, you know, he was laughing. He's walking around the back and he's like, those fucking guys are nuts. Yeah. But we made that race into, well, Roy had a good thing going, but man, it really kind of turned a corner once Skull Racing, you know, kind of took over that thing for a few years, you know. It was really awesome. But Roy was a great guy, man. I hope Raymond Wiest is listening right now. I still talk to him. So in that same building, Jay, they have it's a golf supply company now, R&R.
Yeah.
I actually bought some clubs through Raymond a couple of years ago. I still talk to them. I mean, they were just kids when we were there, but man, it was a blast. But that's where I met Kyle, you know, and so when we saw him out of that atmosphere and he was getting a little bit older, he was like our main guy to go and party with, you know. So
Kyle was a wild one, right?
Yeah, Kyle, you know, he was pretty, I mean, he was just so good. I mean, I don't know if he had to, you know, Jay is, man, he's a man on a mission. He's focused on this thing. Kyle, you could kind of get him off track a little bit. But, you know, I think he's just, you know, such a young kid or whatever. But they were, you know, an awful lot of fun, but just fast, you know. And around that time is when Ledger started getting to, you know, where he was really pulling away from anybody else in Chicago. I mean, for a long time, I felt like it was either me or him. We're in a lot of the races or a lot of the heats. But, you know, once you got past the 89 Nationals, I know we didn't do well. Walski did the best out of any of us at the 89 Nationals. He qualified 10th in the C main. And they had a whole, you know, introduction of all the drivers, A, B, C main. And we had a pretty good thing going with John Thawley back in the day where we were putting on a little bit of a show. And, man, the two of them, the guys together, were just fucking hilarious, you know. But, yeah, Walski made it to that C main. And I want to say Jack Johnson was up there. I mean, it was all loaded with pro drivers. And here's Walski with his YZ10 Yokomo. Just barely made it. He was the 10th qualifier in the C main, but it was really fun.
That's cool.
Did you run a 4-wheel drive at that, Jay?
I know. Where was the national at? I forget.
That was at Freedom Hill Park in.
Oh yeah, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what I ran there.
Yeah,
I definitely ran a 4-wheel drive, I'm sure, but I don't know what I ran. I might have still ran a Yokomo.
I mean, what else really was there? A Schumacher?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Schumacher. A Kyosho.
Yeah.
You had your mid by then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walski ran the YZ10, but he loved the which Dirk, I really enjoyed, you know, watching you talk with Eustace Moore the other day, but Walski was a huge fan. He had a bunch of those fucking kits, the cable drive, chain drive. Nice.
Oh yeah, Eustace is repumped, Jay.
Yeah.
So
cool.
He is Michael, does this car ring a bell on the screen here?
Yeah, that looks like it might be Andy Hayes.
Yeah, this may be Andy Hayes.
Or is that yours?
No, this is one I pulled, but this
you'll
is
have to
one of your
understand,
OGs, right?
You'll have to understand that there is at least 200 bodies painted just like that.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal for us to all go and run the same body. That turns out to not be a very good idea. You get fucking messed up.
You lose your car on the track.
It happened to me a couple of times, man. More than a couple. But
I had that happen to me one time in A scale since I came back, where I was driving a totally different car at PMB.
So, that's a pretty. Whose car is it?
It's probably got to be, because this has the whole plaque and everything with it. Who would have had that?
So I've got a body here, and I think it's
Had the aluminum front hubs on it.
First generation. Oh, aluminum hubs. Oh,
Yeah.
That's my car. That's why. Well, that might be mine. I don't know.
This might be your old one for sure.
Oh, here it is. Here's the way it looked at the very beginning. This is a first generation, and I believe this is an Andy's body. Look at how wide that thing is.
Wow.
That was a skull body. And me and Ledger and our buddy Dennis would sit down in my basement in Valentine, Illinois, with a stack of bodies and go, oh, we need 12 bodies for next weekend or whatever. And Don Jones would get so pissed because we had lined up for the A main, and it was 9 skull cars and him. And he didn't know which one was, running into him or whatever, and just found it to be. But me and Don Jones actually became pretty tolerant of each other near the end. We talked about old times and stuff a lot. You remember Don Jones, don't you?
Yeah.
Hey, what a guy.
Yep.
But
hey, how long did you run for Skull Racing? How long did y'all do all this, Mike?
How long did it last?
Yeah.
Well, it's still going. I mean, it'll never really fully die out. It has resurgences, but
Okay, all right.
So Skull Racing started in 1987. Me and Walski, Matt Ledger,
Yeah.
Dennis Wazak, and the 2 other original guys was Mike Garcia from Sandwich, Illinois, and Jim Redler, who was also passed.
Yeah.
Jim Redler was probably close to 10 years older than me. And he was just an old biker dude, and he worked at the hobby shop, and he was just a fucking great guy. But him and his kid, so there were 6 of us that started it. And we had all traveled together down to Quincy for what was my first ever big race, whatever you want to call it, big get together. Guys came in, it was Dunn's, and the Kyle wasn't with him at the time. And we walked through the door at this place, all jacked up. We're these outdoor racing, club racing guys. We raced on these huge outdoor tracks. We walked through the door at Roy's, and this fucking thing looked like a miniature golf course we were going to race on. He had all this green carpeting out there going up the wall, and these ropes they were tabletops, but they were like this. I mean, if you hit it wrong, your car just stopped. It was the most insane fucking thing ever. And we went down there and experienced something like I've never experienced. People didn't give a shit. If you were in the way or you wanted to make that corner, it just felt like you got hammered for a whole entire weekend. Just got the shit kicked out of you. And I had told those guys on the way home, I said, if we go back to this damn thing next year, I'm going to paint a big giant skull on my hood, and I'm going to just drive my way through all those assholes. And they're like, yeah, we should do it. And it didn't take long. And, went home, started working on it. I'm just an amateur. I have a painter, but I bought an airbrush and I was like, start this thing, I'm like, well, that actually looks pretty cool. And this is it. And that's what it was.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got better, Mike, over the years. Yeah, this looks a lot better than that does. This may be one of the last skull bodies you painted.
No, I painted some. Oh, I painted that when I lived in Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
Jesus, you might be right about that, but
yeah,
I've got the mother of all skull bodies here behind me.
We got to see that.
Oh,
So I know Jay's got the mother of. He's got the Lambo body, right?
He's got.
Yeah, that's what I showed you last time.
Yeah, that body's incredible.
He's got. Go on, like here's my LXT that was the same generation of as Jay's.
Yep.
The one that we've all seen.
Yeah.
I know my lighting kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But to me, this skull was fucking awesome. It fit right on the little hood scoop part of the LXT. Real nice, which, works good for us,
Right.
And, man, they were a lot of work to paint this.
Oh,
but these guys had become intolerant of the way I would paint the skull on there. Then I'd finish it off whatever I want and then send it out there, right? Well, everybody come, it wasn't my colors, or, Jay was like, oh, I don't know, the pink is off a little and the blue. So can you just paint the skull on it and send it to me? Well, I don't know anybody that I would do that for, but I did it anyhow.
Yeah.
But what we ended up with was a really fucking cool looking body.
Yeah.
That your buddy Lopes
RC race in Louisiana.
That fucking guy is a hell of a painter.
Yeah.
Luke's RC.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember that one. Was that in the 90s?
That was one of the cool ones.
Yeah, he painted my bodies for quite a while. So,
but this is what guys, that paint. We all look at each other's work, and you want to pick up what you can from somebody, and what's this guy doing? That's cool, and blah blah blah. But I think one of the hardest things is, when you get into detail like this, where the curves are so small.
Oh my goodness.
I remember when I painted this, and I think Dwayne said, now you're just showing off.
Right.
But it's like, for me, it's always like, what's the next level? What's the next level, going to be? Because it started out so primitive, really, but it gave me a lot of chances to paint for people, and just at the time, the material, $20 for a body back in 1990 or whatever. Yeah.
That's one thing that's really went up is body painting from back in the day,
Well,
used to go buy one off the shelf for like $35 painted from Andy.
I always wondered how Andy did it.
Yeah.
But I remember reading articles and stuff that he was part of, and man, he had a system, and he just knocked that shit out. You got to stand there for 8 or 10 hours a day, or 12, who knows how many hours a day, and just pound that shit out. But my stuff just was really time consuming. I mean, this body here, I don't even know how many hours. I mean, it's 80, 100. I don't even know.
I know Dwayne really thanks you a lot for all that you've done to help him paint wise.
Dwayne is got his own skills, and there was a couple little things that I turned him on to, little ideas or whatever, and I don't think it was a big deal. I mean, a lot of this stuff is learned by doing anyways, and
it takes time.
Yeah, he's got a real passion for it, and I did for a long time, and really I still do. I mean, but you just got to find the time, to sit down and do it.
Here's one of his most recent ones he did for me. This is my Rubrix MX4 car that I'll be running at the race.
A what?
It's based off a Yokomo MX4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So be blasting it around the track. Trying not to break anything. So Jay, let's talk a little bit about how you ended up, how the AE to Losi transition kind of happened back in the day.
Well, as I was saying before, we were good friends with the Losis, and
because the Losis started out at AE as well, right? Yeah,
they started out there, and they were importing the Yokomo car, but Junior was still running the Associated buggy. we used to go to their track, Ranch Pitch Up, every Wednesday night and race. We became real good friends. And then we moved inland quite a ways. And then they were at our house a lot, or we were at Senior's house quite a bit, just barbecues and stuff. And I mean, the first Losi cars, when they packed them the first time, I remember, it was budget wise, they were coming down to the nitty gritty as far as finance wise on that car. And the first cars that they packed, that was Janet and Gil Sr., Gil Jr., and Alan Losi, their other son. And my dad and I went down there on a Saturday and Sunday and helped pack kits, the very first kits they ever packed.
Wow.
Because they had to get them out the next week. And I think at the time they couldn't afford a lot of employees to come in, So, but that's just what friends did. And we were friends. And I was doing my own product line at the time. And through my product line, I was doing finish work for Mike Reedy, cutting brushes and breaking in motors. I was doing motors for Gil Sr. for his stock motors that he sold, breaking those in and changing the brushes. We started matching batteries. We did spur gear blanks for Rob Robinson for gears.
Oh my goodness, how
turbo
crazy.
tape for JG Manufacturing. We did all the, we'd take big rolls of servo tape, and I made a machine in high school that we could put the rolls on there and roll small rolls.
Huh.
And I had all my friends working for me in high school in the garage, making parts. And then once we moved out that way, that's when Gil talked to me about, maybe getting a little bit more serious with jamming products and making some aftermarket stuff. And so that's I started working with Gil with jamming products, and it was ran out of the same building Losi was at. We did like the diff kits for the RC10. We did tires. We did a body. We the associated body. We did diff kits for the Yokomo car. It had locking diff rings on it. We did a stiffener for the Yokomo car. I mean, we did a lot of things, but I just was spending so much time with them. It was just kind of a transition that kind of had to happen. We're good friends, but then we had a business together. And I think once we were doing business together, there was more and more pressure on me to switch over to them. And I think, Associated, for me, they were great to me. But once I was hanging around their competitor a lot, I think they became worried about that. And I really wasn't treated the same at Associated. So I did this transition to Losi, and I don't even know how many years I raced there till probably, it wasn't a long time, I think 3-4 years or something like that. And then I had switched back to Associated, but maybe it was a little bit longer than that, but I had a lot of good times and traveling with them. And I mean, it was kind of, I mean, the difference was back then Associated got really big, and I kind of going to race for Losi. It was kind of like the smaller team, and they were still interested in doing newer things at the time. Things were starting to get a little stagnant at Associated for me. And so it seemed like the thing to do at the time, so. But it was a tough decision to make, because Associated was they were great to me, and they were great people. And I eventually went back to racing for them, but only for a little while before I basically quit racing. But
would you say that you ran for Losi like through the double X into the double X years, or?
Yeah, it's right when they came out with the truck. I think that truck I won the first at the Winter Nash back there, and that's the truck Jason from J Concepts always talks about, because he won it. He won that truck.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And yeah.
Here's my baby.
Yeah. And we had that Hummer body, and
This is Phoenix.
Yeah, you probably heard about the story with that Hummer body. I showed you the body last time, but
Yeah. What was the story with that, Jay?
so literally it was like a week or 2 weeks before, maybe it was a week before the race, and we were making a bunch of changes on the truck, and the body didn't fit. And so at the time, I'd seen this Lamborghini like Hummer looking truck at a car show, and I'd never made a body tool, so I went home. I got some high density foam and I just started carving a tool that night. The next night or the next morning, I had this blank. I took it might have been to Andy's, and I took it over to Andy's.
Yeah.
He pulled a very thin, sample of it over it to see, if it would fit. I took it, showed Gil and them, and I mean, we were going to the race just a few days. So I ended up finishing that tool that day. And that's what we all raced at the race. And that's why it had that big, looked like a fuel tank in the back, but it was that big old bulky thing to handle the shock towers back there, So
yeah, he's getting ready to bring that body back out.
Yeah, Jason, I think is. But yeah, so I mean it was just made out of necessity. We didn't have a body that would fit, and you couldn't cut out for your shock towers. So
that is awesome.
How the hell did we get that thing to Chicago to have the skull painted on it?
I sent it to you, and then you would ship it from there to my painter, Luke's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened, and I had great times with both companies. I was with Associated a lot longer, and probably during the most competitive time of my career, I was with Associated. But I had great times with both. My relationship on the Losi side ended a little sour, but you know what? We were friends a long time, and we had a lot of great times.
Yeah, I know you and I have had some conversations about that. We don't have to go into that, but one of the things we talked about is, you have all these relationships, right? And trying to, it's that time in our lives, right? Where, if we had something that didn't go right, and these were our close friends, it's time to try to rebuild those.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, man. I can't have, I don't know. I can't have it, but I can't have tension in relationships. I try really hard to, but you also, you know what? We all have the ability to hang out with who we want,
Yeah, exactly.
And, you want to talk about relationships? One of the coolest interactions with people that I've seen was Jay and Mike Dunn. These two fucking guys.
Oh my goodness.
Could be sitting in the middle of, I don't know. They could find something to do together to make each other laugh.
And we're
no matter what was going on, I was like, what is wrong with you guys?
Still really, really, really good friends too, Mike and I.
Such a good dude.
Yeah.
Such a good dude.
I couldn't stand, I'm going to be honest. I tell Steve this all the time. I hadn't really reacquainted with Mike, but I couldn't stand those guys as a kid at the racetrack. I just couldn't.
A lot of people couldn't.
I could not stand them. I'm like,
well, what's
I know they're good people, but I just could not stand them as a kid, and the way they acted, and it was a weird.
It wasn't Jay, it was just Steve.
Mike wasn't that way. Steve was just, and I tell Steve all the time.
You know what? Those are they're cool fucking dudes, man. They are taking any shit, and those guys worked hard. I mean,
yes.
You want to talk about, a couple of guys that thrash on their shit and just, I mean, Steve Dunn.
Yeah.
They're working on this that Chinese car that they had, and he'd break him halfway through the qualifier, go back to the next one, ready to go again and break the fucking thing again and just sit there and try to get those chains all tightened up. The Radiant.
About the race prep car.
The Radiant.
Yeah. And the thing is,
what a turd.
With Mike and Steve, they were competitors, but still they're great guys. They'd be the first one to loan you something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or give you something. And
Yeah.
I think, going back to like the associate Losi thing, even at that, even though they were competitors, if you're racing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing something at a high level and you want to be the best at something, if you feel that you've lost your not so much your edge, but maybe your equipment has lost its edge, it's easy to switch companies because look at motocross guys, motocross guys, I guarantee you, if they thought they had the best stuff out there, they would still race it for less money because they want to win, and that back then it was the same thing with RC.
Golf clubs.
Yeah, golf clubs,
Automobiles.
anything. And I think at the time, going back to that associate Losi thing, I think switching because of the interest, and we were doing business together, Losi and I, it was easier to do because I also thought maybe they had an edge, and they actually had an in-house engineer. They had, a bunch of different things that Gil put a big effort into that program and leveraged everything, to do it. So I had a lot of respect for that, and not saying that Associated didn't, because they did.
Yeah.
But I just think that, they got big and they were focusing on making cars and maybe at that time not focusing, I didn't feel, on making the advances we need to make,
How funny is it now how things have swapped, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. What were your thoughts when AE called you again, Jay? And I know you had a relationship with them to somewhat.
Yeah.
But then they're like, "Hey, Jay, we want you to come back and help us at Associated." What were your thoughts?
You're talking about just lately in the last year or so?
Yeah, like the last little bit.
Well, Sean Ireland was the president. Cliff was the president for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Sean Ireland took over, and I was pretty close with Sean. And then something happened there. I'm not sure if he quit or he got let go or what, but they approached me. Sean had actually approached me about working with them, but the deal wasn't all put together. And then the new CEO approached me. Yeah, Tony. And I wasn't really interested in it, because I just felt that, some of my friends didn't work there anymore. And I don't know, I just wasn't really interested in it, to be honest. Right.
Yeah.
And Tony asked if we could maybe meet for dinner. I met him at the SEMA show. Richard asked me to come to the SEMA show. I went this last year, 2024, but in 2023, and I met Tony there, but at the time he wasn't the CEO or CFO.
Gotcha.
And so then Tony reached out to me and just said, "Hey, how about you come out here and we go to dinner or something one night and we just talk." And so I met him for dinner, and actually we got along great. And
good.
And he's a businessman, and I think there's a lot of big things he had to change lately, and I think he had to do it to benefit Associated. But him and I get along great, and
awesome.
He talked to me about doing this. I was pretty adamant about having the final approval, and if I couldn't do that, I think I mentioned that last time, I wasn't interested because I just didn't want it being another car, with my name on it. I wanted it to be pretty close to what we had back then, and they weren't so gung ho about that, And but I would not do it unless that was the case, and then they agreed to it, and it worked out. The car sold well, and it was a great experience. It's pretty cool, for me, something I did, as we were talking about last time, 40 years ago,
right.
And it's still something I'm doing now, like going to this race. So it's pretty awesome, and that I'm getting to do it now. I'm on their advisory board, so Tony and I talk once in a while, about little things here and there, and I put in my 2 cents, if anything I can help them out with. But but it feels good. I mean, my heart's always been with them because
Yeah.
they were my first major sponsor, and that's who I've been with for a long time. So,
Geez, Jay, I was gonna ask you to help me set up my LXT.
I can do that.
I'm sure he'll still help you do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
I got a question for you though, Jay.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cliff.
Yep.
So what? I guess it's a two-pronged question.
I gotta get it.
What was your are you buddies with Cliff? And then how is it working with him? And is he still involved?
Yes, I believe Cliff is still a consultant on the engineering side. And yes, I'm friends with Cliff, been friends with him a long time. I haven't seen him forever. We've talked a while back. He had moved out of state. Now he moved back, and we've talked about getting together. I just have had a very, very crazy schedule last year or so. So it's been tough, but yeah, Cliff and I were friends before he ever worked for Associated. He was a mechanic for Ricky Johnson.
Yep.
And at that time, Ricky Johnson raced for Yamaha, and then he moved on to Honda. And then Cliff, I think, could have went to Honda also, but he had worked for Yamaha for a long time and stayed there. But he was also looking to switch careers and was taking engineering classes and was racing for Associated then. But I met him out at the track. Just he was just racing, and he had his box van from Yamaha, and we became friends just out at the track. That's how we met.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, and then from that, just like Gil Jr. and I mean, all of us used to go to the sand dunes together, take our quads out. Cliff would usually come out maybe like Thanksgiving or something, come out for a day or so with his quad. Gil Jr. and Ron Rossetti and our family, we would all camp out of Glamis. We'd be there for like 4 or 5 days dooning and doing the whole thing together, So I actually went to the race out at Paris, the dirt race, a couple weeks ago, and ran into Gil Jr. there. And I don't think I've seen Jr. in like 15 years. So it was awesome seeing him. And we kind of walked off to the side and just, shot the shit for a while. And it was cool seeing him,
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what are you most looking forward to at the race?
I'm looking forward to driving my toy car around that track.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God, it just looks awesome. And then I'm going to beat Eustace Moore. So
yeah,
that's my goal.
Yeah.
We finished second and third in the B main at the Winter Champs one year in the stadium truck class. And we were standing right next to each other in the driver's stand. And I'll tell you what, man, I was so pumped about that race. And I think I had qualified second or third or fourth in the B, something like that. And Eustace was right next to me, and Cam Motors Tate. God, Tate, I can't remember his last name, but Cam was a great motor. Certainly could, stand up to any Revolution, Trinity, whatever he had. The Cam motor was right there. And Chris Dosick got me in with Tate. And I always had the fastest shit, around Chicago as far as motor. And we hit the gas when the buzzer went off for that B main. And I don't think I ever let off going into the sweeper. And I just pile drive Eustace right into the outside. And it was terrible. I was like, oh my God, dude. I mean, he looked at me like, what the hell? I go, I am so sorry. I go, come on, let's go. So we were like in dead last. Well, 4 minutes later, it was like, oh, fuck, we're in second and third now. And I was in second. He never got past me after I hammered him. And on the last corner before I knew we were both in the gold. On the last corner before the finish line, I just pulled over and I said, go ahead, Eustace, man. Sorry I hammered you. And he was like, oh, thanks, man.
He is such a when you talk about genuinely good people, that is Eustace Moore.
Yeah, he's
right.
He's, and then here's me and Walski just running around like crazy, and we're such a distraction, and I'm sure a lot of people felt that way, and I know Eustace did, but he never had anything foul to say about us, and like Gene Hustings, we start talking about the people that associated Gene was the fucking greatest. He loved the.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Gene was such a good soul. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's good to see Eustace still doing what he does.
Yeah. No, he's such a good guy. Yeah, he's such a good guy, and he's so focused. And he always was Mr. Clean, though, man. His stuff was always clean. When he got to the track, if his car was dirty, he's cleaning it off. I mean, he was Mr. Clean, and I hear his shop's that way now too.
Oh my God, did you see it?
I have not.
Oh, you gotta see the video.
It was a great video. I watched the whole thing, and it was really fun, and his shop was amazing.
What's funny is a guy that we go to the desert with built his shop. He's a contractor.
Oh, yeah?
And he just starts, one day he's talking to me. He goes, so you're into this RC stuff. He goes, do you know this guy Eustace Moore? I go, yeah, I know Eustace very well. He goes, well, we're building a shop. Man, this guy's picky. He's saying it. I said, oh, you don't even know.
Right.
But it's awesome to see, someone back in the day. I mean, he's been doing this forever. I mean, he was, when I first started coming to the track, he was the guy to beat back then. And I mean, so he's been doing it a lot longer than I have back then too.
Yeah. I mean, I think he started in like 76, Jay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's a long damn time.
Yeah. And he's still awesome. I just talked to him last week. I ordered some tools and stuff. And it's funny, my tools that I use are still MIP wrenches and Thorpe wrenches that I had that were Thorpe wrenches. And I'm like, you know what? It's time I need to upgrade and just go to new tools here. So I ordered all new tools last week, but I called and spoke to Eustace, and we were talking about this race coming up. And it's going to be really cool seeing him.
Is Joel Johnson really coming to this?
Oh, yeah.
Is he really?
I went and seen Joel a couple weeks ago, and we hung out in Park City. He's pumped, man. He is pumped as well. And I think there's some of what you and I have talked about personally, Jay, that he kind of goes through as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you end up in business with your friends, sometimes things don't always end up the way you want them to. You know what I mean? Sometimes tough decisions have to be made, and I think there's some of that going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's pumped. He's like he's doing good, and he's excited to come, and kind of like your car, Jay. We did Joel's was one of the first ones to come out, right, when we did the JJ Ultima from the '87.
That's when I knew that this was gonna turn into something.
Yep.
You said Joel Johnson. I was like, Joel Johnson's going to come to this. Like, man, Jay Halsey is not too far behind. And then they came out with this car. I'm like, oh my God. I hate leaving Minnesota. Fuck, I don't want to leave Marcel, Minnesota. But I guess I'm going to Indiana.
Yeah.
But I was really thrilled to hear that Matt Ledger was going to be coming there. We worked together and we're friends for a long time, 22 years working together. Fab Finley.
Yeah,
great guy.
That's coming too. Yep.
We snowmobiled together. We knew these guys since they were kids. And Brian Mello. Wow, the guy stuck with RC. He's a team manager for Associated now. When I first met him, he was just a rowdy kid that wanted to kick your ass at the RC track or whatever. And he fucking stuck with it and, really did something with it. So it's, I could tell back then that he loved it. and it'll be fun to see all those guys.
Yeah,
Ledger is pumped. You know, he turned me down for a while because he was kind of like you did.
Who did?
Ledger. He was going through some health stuff for a little bit and didn't think he was going to be able to do it. And finally, he reached back out to me and said, "Hey, dude, I got everything worked out. I really want to do this."
Nice.
So, man, I'm so excited to get all y'all together. Jay, I know you're on time crunch. I mean, if we got to cut this off, we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I probably got to get rolling here pretty quick. One thing I wanted to tell you real quick is I'm definitely looking forward to it. But what's funny is I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, but I don't want to go back there and be embarrassed and not do good. And then you send me pictures of the car, and I look at the tires, and I see the shorty pack and the weights move farther forward because of the shorty pack. So I know to have more steering and less weight on the rear end. And it's like my mind's already going all this stuff we need to do when we get there and test, but I'm not going to be there the first practice day, you know, but
yeah. And don't forget, we got stuff planned Thursday night, Jay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Now the car,
again, but
Jay, the car is set up pretty freaking good to a car that I just saw kind of dominated another race. So it's kind of set up almost identical to Dave McEwen, what he gave me. You know, I did find the front sway bar and stuff for it. I don't think we're going to need it for two-wheel drive on that track. You know, the cars are totally different, right? It's a different deal than it used to be back in the day because it's a totally different dirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you look at the car, you're gonna be like, "Oh man, is that gonna work?"
Yeah.
But I used to run this car. This was my heritage car for a long time and did really well with it.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna have to get it on the track. You know, I have another set of front tires that the sidewall is not glued on, mounted up.
Yep.
You know, there's nothing we're not gonna have to make it work. Like I told you earlier, I got another backup transmission if we decide we want to go that way. I can tell you this: that car with the 17.5 in it is fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fast, you know, and the short arms, because normally we run those 6-gear cars with a 21.5, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to put too much power to them, especially with the short arms. But we'll just have to get it out there. If there's things we want to play with and do, we'll be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Massage it, right?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I'm excited, and I just want to thank you again for building the car and invite me to this race and putting on this race. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and hopefully doing good at the race.
Hey, Jay, do you remember when the first year at the Winter Champs when they were doing the truck race and the JRXD was a trailing arm truck?
Yep.
So I had already been running that truck for, a whole season, which was basically an outdoor season, in Chicago. And right away, I never ran a thing with the trailing arms. We took those off and threw them away and put the H-arms on because we had already went through this with the car now, right? And I had my car set up with let's just pick 20 weight oil and whatever the pistons were front and back with the H-arms and blah, blah, blah. We all got down there and it rained like a son of a bitch. And, but you were the guy that was going to figure out what the best setup was. So they were all waiting for you to tell them, and you put the truck out there with the trailing arms and do a bunch of laps. They were timing, for how many seconds it was. And then you went back to the pits and you changed it all fucking around and you're drilling little holes in the fucking shock pistons and take the trailing arms off and put the thing back out there. 2 seconds faster per lap.
Really?
You're sitting there and we're all just sitting there and Pop's Losi in it. Now I had just taken the H-arms off of my truck. They said that wasn't going to work anymore. I put the trailing arms on, fucking changed my shocks, did everything. We ended up with the same fucking setup I came there with. That we used to run in Chicago, but I changed my truck like 14 fucking times.
That's the way it always happened, Mike.
Yeah.
He just go through. So, I was so frazzled. On
Sorry.
That. And then the final thing was, I don't know. I'm still squirrely. You know, I'd come out of on that red clay, and it was car trucks all over the place. And well, somebody had gone back to the trailer or whatever and gotten the kit tires from the JRX2, which was the hard rubber.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you put those on, and the truck was dialed. You know, the whole practice was a waste.
Yeah.
Because I never put. Finally, right at the end, one of the guys, either Jack or you or Gil, whoever did the K tires. I'm like, I don't even have those. I don't have it, you know. So now everybody's scrambling. We're looking for the K tires, and there's only X amount of them because nobody ever dreamed you'd be using them. But they did have them. And I don't know. I think, did you win that one? Or one of the Losi guys won that one?
That might have been the one that I won back there.
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been like 92 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when the tracks really started to change, right? You know, everything, you know, right when I left, we were all like trailing arms were the thing, right? Everybody wanted to be running trailing arms because the tracks were just so bumpy and loose, and trailing arm cars worked amazing on those.
Well, the trailing arm thing was, I never owned an original RC10. By the time the track we were on, the trailing arm flat chassis worked great. The lighter, the better. Big giant straightaways. You just wanted it to be fast and have traction anyways. Slide through the corners. And, you know, that lasted for probably a couple of seasons by us, you know, in the summertime on the big outdoor tracks. But they weren't very good on the bumps, really.
Yeah.
So, and it wouldn't turn if you took it somewhere that had a bunch of tight corners. It was a whole fucking different deal. And but I never had the original car. I had an MIP transmission on a graphite chassis with the R&R or MIP trailing arms. I don't remember which. They were basically identical. And man, it was fun to drive on the right track, you know.
Yep.
But you know, after a couple of seasons of that, everybody realized, you know, you need something, especially when we went to like Freedom Hill Park for the Nationals in '89. You know, it just wasn't going to work out there. You know, it was still such a cool fucking idea. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think James Dieter was. I know he was at the forefront of the trailing arm movement at the time, but I don't know where that idea came from originally. Do you, Jay? Or
the trailing arms?
Yeah.
Originally, Junior was looking at some of the real short course cars that were raced like in the Mickey Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And they had that multi-link rear hub set up like that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, almost identical to that, you know, because you had A&L making them, you had Hogue making them,
you
had MIP making them, you had Touch making them, you had there were so many different trailing arms before the JRX2 came out, right?
Yeah.
Now the 5-link was something totally new that we had not seen in RC yet when that came out. Because you're right, Jay, it really came off the big trucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, it was a short course buggies they were copying at the time, and that raced in the Mickey Thompson stuff.
Yeah,
and I think Junior, I forget who they knew somebody was racing in the Mickey Thompson series, and he started looking at how that suspension was done, trying to build it in an RC car, but it's easier said than done to build it into an RC car and make it light and strong, you know. So.
All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna cut it short. I look so forward to seeing you guys next week. Mike, man, you had no idea how it made my day when you texted and said you were coming.
Well, hey, thanks for
Jay, thank you, because Mike probably wouldn't have came if you didn't come. So I appreciate you guys, Jay. If you need anything before you come or think about anything, I should have some time tomorrow and Tuesday in the mornings. If you want to give me a shout, just let me know.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be available tomorrow. So I'll maybe give you a call to go over a couple things, but thanks again. Thanks for having me on here. Good seeing you too, Mike. And I can't wait to see you back there. And thanks again, Dirk, for this race that you guys are putting on. I think it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to meeting everybody back there, and hopefully not get my butt kicked too bad.
Just be ready, Jay.
Yeah,
everybody, you are the OGs. Everybody loves Jay. Everybody loves Jay Halsey.
If Dirk beats us both, we're going to be pissed.
Yeah, they were really. Yeah. If he doesn't need us next year. Right?
If I was in the Legends class, y'all just know that would happen. I'm trying to take it easy on you, Jay.
Yep. Well,
I probably owe you some payback from back in the day, though. I'm sure.
Probably do.
But have a good night, guys. I'm so blessed that this race is going the way it is, and seeing what Eddie put on there, that artwork he did for that track. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is going to go down. I'm telling you guys, one of the biggest. That's right. I'm going to squash your head.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, gentlemen. Y'all have a good night.
All right, man.
Enjoy this video. Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Way to go, Dirk. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.